there's a separate story that's kind of connected to this. Why we're talking about it, as opposed to the transfer deals in themselves. So there's talk about an Anthony bid. There's lots of people speak about him today. His entourage have arrived back in Europe and this type of thing. But what this kind of centers around is a story that I think Tom McDermott and Phil Brown, very, very prominent in the Man United space, have both said today separately at different times that Man United are now going to drop their focus on a number 9. They and Ten Hag wanted Darwin Núñez. That deal isn't possible. So instead of settling for something they don't want, they're going to move on to strengthening other key areas of the pitch. Anthony being one on the right-hand side. Of course, they're looking to bring people into the midfield, into defence. And for me, as much as I want Frankie de Jong done, and I don't want us to drag it out too long, and I don't want us to end up... If, for instance, suddenly Man City start to show a real genuine interest and we're 8-9 million shy, then there's a part of me that thinks pay it, because we might end up losing out on him. But at the same time, there's certain things we're doing, and it's very early stages, but it's how we should be run. The way Man City last summer didn't miss out on Harry Kane and then just go and buy some random number 9 to fill the void that they're now stuck paying 200 grand a week to. They waited. They went, okay, well, wait. They went and won a league. They waited, and now they've gone and got Haaland. Liverpool have done this on a regular basis where we can't get a number 1, number 2 target. Let's wait. We won't strengthen that position. We'll wait until January. We'll wait until the summer. And I think that kind of approach from Man United is really, really key, because we've hemorrhaged hundreds of millions of pounds in transfer fees and even more in wages in the last 9 years by rushing into so many of these deals. And some of the time, it's not even buying the wrong player. If you end up paying £15 million too much for everybody and selling everybody for £10 million too much, that's £20 million every sale and purchase that you're hemorrhaging. At some point, you run out of money. At some point, you can't buy someone, you can't renew a contract. And I think that is what United need to get right this summer.
I can understand that to a point, but what I'm saying is Liverpool, Man City have been putting off signings that they don't actually need because they've been in a position to do that, where they've been so well run, the team's built, and they've been in a position like that. Man United have caused their own mess with the way you've been run for years and now trying to change. I understand that, and you want to basically not overpay. But like I just said, it's just that one sign. I'm not saying you have to go and because Barcelona need the money. Barcelona will ask for that money. You can push them in the wrong direction to be like, well, you're taking the mick, you're taking the time. We want this. You're not coming anywhere near us. So the deal's off, and they might turn away and not take it, or just go elsewhere, or see if they can offload elsewhere. You might run that risk if you don't.
You do run that risk, but I think this is where, again, I don't know if you've seen this, Neeks, as a United fan, but the last sort of 24 hours, I've seen all the negative Nancy's come back out. I'm seeing people having Ollie debates in spaces again. They're ranting. All the negative people have come out again. These idiots honestly believe one summer in United are going to be... in their brain, they don't think. They believe that's what should happen. One summer and it's fixed. It's going to take 2 or 3 years to fix Man United. And I've said it all along. What we do on the pitch is a manifestation of what we do off of it. And I hear your point, but there's this part of me that thinks we end up missing out on somebody because they're trying to exploit the price out of us. If we keep saying yes to that price, we're never going to drive the price down.
Terry, you literally took the words out of my mouth.
You stop at some point.
So who's in charge of that, though, at your club?
John Myrtle now. John Myrtle now.
Because there's got to be a state where you just back Ten Hag and what Ten Hag wants, really and truly. And as fans, that you got to try and just, obviously it's going to be blind faith, but have faith in Ten Hag. And Man United have to listen to him and say, look, what do you want? Do you want us to listen? If we spend 70 mil, this is the budget. Are you confident that there'll be enough budget left for you to go and get your other targets? That's what's there. That's what's available.
But this is it, Dan. This is like we know who we're run by. So we can have this fantasy where we've got unlimited cash. Man United should be spending more than we actually do based on what we earn, or should have the ability to, rather. But because the Glazers are who they are, they would say, for example, you got 150 million to spend on new players. And then you have to say, Ten Hag, if you want Frankie de Jong for 80 million, the money's there. But it means there's only 60 million left to spend on what else you want. And between him and the director of football, they have to decide whether the risk of only being able to buy maybe 2 players as opposed to 4 players is worth it to overspend on de Jong. And for me, I'm in a position now where it's not about free hits and those kind of things that them not do down in North London. No, I'm not talking about Alan here. But So next season, Man United is always pressure on us, always pressure on the manager. But I'm willing to forego instant success for long-term success. I don't want a quick fix anymore. I don't want spend big, try and win a couple cups just so we can say, oh, we won a few trophies in the last 5 years, and then we're back in the same position in a few years' time. We need to build from now. And as Terry said, if that means we miss out on Frankie de Jong, because between Murta and Ten Hag, they said no, the money's better spent elsewhere. But it means that in 3, 4, 5 years' time, we're in a better position to attack the market and get the players we want and challenge on the pitch. Then it's something that, frankly, Man United fans are going to have to live with, because until the Glazers are gone, those are the constraints of the manager.
Yeah. Don't you think, Neeks, that lots of clubs know the desperate situation Man United's in?
So we need to prove that we're not in that desperate situation. We need to walk.
But we all know you are, though. Like, because imagine you
can't disprove that. Anyone with a football brain knows the situation you're in. The way I see it,
sorry to say that we're not in a desperate situation. Financially, we're very strong.
No, but team-wise,
I still think you're kind of just missing the point.
Okay.
The reason we're in this position, forget the team. You know, you play the longer game on that. What's put us in a bad position is people often have a go at me because they say, how can you hate the Glazers when they've spent what they've spent? I never question what they've spent. Let's take away the debt, the holes in the roof, what they do with us on the stock market. Let's put all that aside. Let's look at just the running of the club. I've never questioned how much they've spent. We spent more than City. I've questioned on who they've allowed to make the decisions around what and who we spend on and why. That's what we need to get better at, because it's if you overspend now and you hemorrhage, it's when you end up not being able to renew the contracts you want. You miss out on the opportunity of buying a player because the club's in a mess. And the amount of times there's been opportunities, Haaland's a great example. If Man United over the last 3 years really were getting better and we were in title contention, I know he's got the family connection, but that would have been a deal we would have had a real genuine chance of getting, because the power of the club is there. But the problem is when you do it the way we've been doing it, every 18 months, you end up in the situation we're in now, where you've got this squad that isn't good enough, with lots of players that don't want to be there, new managers coming in. There's no consistency. You can't build anything in that. And that, for me, is more important than just getting the star names now, because the team needs to be better now. We have to think longer term, because that kind of instant gratification is just, that literally was the word of Ed Woodward, if that makes sense. But I was about to move on to something else for a second there until that came in. There's a super chat here that says, the United fan base literally is confusing as F. We rip the board for overspending and wasting the budget, and then we criticize the board for not overspending, like people need to make up their damn minds. If Myrtle and Matt Judge facing similar problems of negotiations, is the Glazers micromanaged transfer, or Myrtle or Matt Judge not good in negotiations? Well, I think I wouldn't say that we're actually struggling in the negotiations as such. You've got to remember, the reason this has taken 4 to 5 weeks is United has spent a lot of that time getting the player to agree first. And then you move, the player agrees, then the clubs negotiate. It's very rarely the other way around. When it's the other way around, it's when you get moments like today where Vlahovic says, I had no idea about an Arsenal offer. Of course he didn't, because they got the bid accepted by Fiorentina, but the agent told Arsenal no. So the player didn't speak to anyone. You do it the other way around. You get the player to say yes, then you start talking to the football club. Man United and Barca have only been in direct contact for about a week and a half. The only person, by the way, that's in the mud with all this Man United stories would actually be Fabrizio, that said Man United will 100% sign a striker this summer. That's that. I'm sure someone's going to find that quote and throw it at him. So he's getting a lot of stick at the minute is Fabrizio Romano. But viewers tuning in, what do you think Manchester United should do? Spend the money, be prudent, and keep negotiating. What's your thought? I mean, I've seen a lot of people say that he's only basically a faster version of Ward-Prowse. He's not even that good. So I get confused with fan opinion when it comes to this sometimes. But Man United, looking at the Frankie de Jong second bid, they're also looking at a bid for Anthony instead of a number 9 striker. And we are going to talk Arsenal. We are going to talk West Ham. We've got the big Nunez-Haaland debate coming up. And we're going to talk a little bit of net spend as well. Is that wrong, though, Daniel? Are Man United wrong to not go and buy a number 9?
Let me answer that question first. Are they wrong? No. And to be honest, actually, do you know what? I'm allowed to. I don't support Man United. I think I can sit on the fence in terms of it actually depends on what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. It depends on what the plan is. It depends on what Ten Hag sees the future in his eyes. A lot of it depends on how you want to shape everything. Look, you look at Liverpool, and obviously they've got a structure in place, but I believe that Klopp has a huge influence and a huge say in what happens and who comes into the squad or not. Pep Guardiola has the same thing with that. We're seeing in Chelsea's situation, the stories come out that apparently Tuchel's going to have all the say over transfers, so there's going to be none of that. These aren't Tuchel's players, or Tuchel's didn't say, like, there's going to be no question about that because of what has been reported, because it's all going to be in his eyeline. So the same thing goes for Ten Hag. Depends on what Ten Hag thinks. Does he think that Ronaldo is someone that he wants to start week in, week out for him in the league? Obviously, you're in the Europa League, so you're in a lesser competition, so maybe take the group stages a little bit lightly. I don't know what his plan is in regards to that. We've obviously got the Rashford situation, and whether he can get Rashford back firing, whether Rashford is a striker or whether Rashford is a winger. We don't know how Ten Hag sees him. I do think you might need to get an attacker of some sorts because of obviously Greenwood, and I mean we don't know what's going to happen in that situation as well. So yeah, I just think there's a lot of unanswered things when it comes to Manchester United, and it really, really depends on how Ten Hag and the club, what direction they want to take you in. And I think the best thing to do is, even if you can't get everyone, sort out your either your defense, sort out whether you want this goalkeeper long term. Pep Guardiola came in, showed balls straight away. He said, Joe Hart's not my guy. It's like, yeah, I don't want this guy. I need someone else. And even though Claudio Bravo didn't work, it was the next goalkeeper that worked. I need to see that kind of balls and that kind of that cojones by Ten Hag. I need to see that kind of, like, yeah, I'm the guy in charge, and then we can see that and then going forward. But the question I had to the United fans, so you and Neeks, is that what were we talking about just before? De Jong, is there any situation where in your eyes you walk away from this deal? Or do you have to get him this summer?
Look, I think your previous point about the striker kind of answers it. If it hinders other areas of the pitch, and there's other midfielders we could buy. So let's say, for instance, we don't spend 80 million on him, but we ended up, and I'm going to throw two names. We ended up with Basuma and Neves for a combined amount of 65 million. Then I'm okay with it. Does that make sense? Because I think their quality as an example. It's about the overall plan. Same as the striker situation. I would rather wait for the right number 9 and improve the right-hand side of the attack. There's been talk, and again, I know the detractors of these players as United fans hate this, but 3 or 4 reports from very prominent journalists in the past week, now by Charlotte Danker, I think her name is, talking about Ten Hag has expressed this in interviews, like sort of to the press, not ones that he's given out publicly, that he is really focused on trying to improve some of the underperformers. And I know this is going to trigger the Johnnies, and it's going to trigger the Rants, and I know it's going to trigger the Saids, and I big up those guys, good content creators. But he is very much wanting, he loves the idea of playing with Marcus Rashford. He thinks Marcus Rashford, he can get back to his very, very best. And even if people don't rate Rashford, if Rashford starts performing to at least Ollie's peak level when he was that's 20 plus goals a season, fact. So you can make up those goals and make up those. There are still some very good players in this Man United team that just fell by the wayside. Rashford, Donny van der Beek, who's coming back, Bruno Fernandes, who just faded with everything else that was going on. So I think Frankie de Jong is a signing I would love to happen because he is an outstanding player. But to Neeks' point, if we signed him, but it ended up damaging 2 or 3 other signings later on down the line, could that not be cutting off your nose to spite your face? For me, it's a case of let's do what Ten Hag and the new team running the club want, because for the first time in 9 years, we've got football people making the football decisions. We haven't had this, and that's what I'm intrigued to see what happens, really.
From an outside looking in, I just think you've got more problem positions than striker. The striker market this window now isn't exactly free flowing now. The 2 that had the most rumours about them are gone. And I know that there was reports that Erik Ten Hag really wanted Núñez. Maybe this is a situation where you go, no, I only wanted a type of player like him. There isn't another one available, so we'll wait it out. You've got positions that need addressing quicker than a striker. As much as Ronaldo's old, that's still a guaranteed 15, 20 goals a season. Marcus Rashford, you've got Anthony Martial coming back. I'm sure you can cover that area with other players, not to a high level, but you can cover it. You can't cover centre-back. You cannot cover defensive midfield. you cannot cover fullback, and your goalkeeping situation is iffy at best. They're the priority positions that
We've
you
got,
need to
we've
make
got
sure.
Scotty back. Scotty back can be a centre back. He can be a DM. He can he can do that. But listen, viewers, we want your take on what's going on at Manchester United.